Morning guys, it's Calvin from the Cartoon Company in New Zealand. I'm here with John, who owns this absolutely gorgeous 1995 LS400. It is a gorgeous car, absolutely lovely. It's got the black interior in it, and inside it's just about perfect. Even though I think it's done quite a few Ks. We'll check that later on.
180.
180 Ks. And today we...
Just running in.
Yeah. We're just going to do some spark plugs and some oxygen sensors. I did a little bit of testing when John came in last time. And the spark plugs are quite worn. And the oxygen sensors are a bit of a maintenance thing and weren't responding. I did some testing. So very quickly I whipped this cover off. I'm just removing the air intake on this side. It has been out before because it didn't have the washer on there, so we'll put the right washer on there. And we're going to check things like the hoses, and they're all quite soft, this one. And we're going to take this cover off and this cover off and remove spark plugs. But before I do that, I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to put some penetrant all over the oxygen sensors. Here's the steering rack, because this is a right-hand drive car, and the oxygen sensor is one right there. And the plug for it, the connectors for it's up under there. And then the other one is over here. So of course if it was a left-hand drive I'd have a steering rack in here, but I don't because mine's a right-hand drive car. So this one's quite relatively easy to get to. Those are the primary oxygen sensors. And then these are the sub-oxygen sensors back here. In some cars they've got this little plate where they also have a heat sensor in that little hole there. This one doesn't, wasn't spec'd with a heat sensor. There's the same thing on this side, and the sub-oxygen sensor. Now the sub-oxygen sensors are only there to monitor the catalytic converters. They don't affect fuel mixtures at all. That's solely the job of the primary sensors. Right, we've got to get the proper tool. Get in there. So this one's pretty easy. I got this tool here, and that sensor just sort of wound out up in here. That was pretty easy to get to. Oh, that's better. Yeah, it was easy. This side not so much. This is the plugs up in there. Long screwdriver up through here. Pushed on the clip, popped it out. And then I think this one's going to be the go. I'm going to need two hands, so I'm going to get this sensor out and I'll let you know which tool I used. My little kit's been pretty handy over the years. So this one was the go. I was up in there, wiggly, with another wiggly, and I was able to pop through there and up, and then there was a big bang, everything fell on the ground, but it was loose. And the man with the gorilla hands at the back desk, I can't even see him. That man over there was saying his hands can fit up here. Sometimes he surprises me with his agility with those big hands, because it is a little bit of a tight squeeze for me. But they're not seized. They're a real problem when these things seize in there.
Okay.
That's really, really unpleasant. And we take them out.
Is that what it is?
That's what the oxygen sensors are.
Yeah.
And Jasmine will get me the new ones out of the office, which are sitting all ready to go. I went and got them. And you can see it's burning reasonably well. But it's just lifespan. They reach their use by date. The car's probably never had them changed. They're quite likely the original ones. They're still badged as a Toyota.
Okay.
So quite likely that's the original sensors.
Okay.
So well past getting the new set.
Okay.
Proper Denzos. I'm going to just wipe my hands.
So how can you tell this stuff? What?
Oh, we tested them last time,
Right.
didn't we?
Yeah.
We actually did. We did put the. Did we put the scan tool on it, or did I do it? We put the scan tool on it.
Yes, you do.
Okay, these are the. So if you could just pop them out of there, pop your one out as well. Do not drop these. Okay, they don't want to be dropped at all. And then we're going to put the little bit of anti-seize on them. Yep. So I am talking to spec, of course. So I could get it out with the other tool, but I didn't really mind if I damaged the sensor in any way. but putting it back in proved a little bit more tricky. So I used this tool with a big cutout on the side and a big spanner. The other side was nice and simple, that's the easy one. And now I just have to plug them back in. You'll see up in here, hopefully. Of course, we put the workshop glitter, the anti-seize that came in the pack. There's enough in the pack to do 2 sensors. And that makes sure that it makes it slides in nice and easy and protects those threads, hopefully for a long time. Okay, so John just asked me what this was. That's the fan resistor. So that's your air conditioning fan. So it doesn't run full voltage when the air conditioning's on. So they reduce the voltage through the resistor, and the fan goes a little bit slower but runs all the time.
Okay.
Look how tidy this thing is under here. Like, even around the transmission, it's nice and clean. Looks like it's had a transmission service at some stage, hasn't it? Do you know anything about the...
I don't know anything about that.
It's got a cork gasket, so it's had a service at some stage. We're still standing in the exhaust.
Okay.
Look how small it is. Woo! That's why they're quiet. Look at it. Tiny. Tiny. And there's the little fuel filter. We're actually, I got asked about fuel filters the other day on them, and what's the difference between a UCF10 and a UCF20? And it's the size of the fittings on them. One's M12, M14, and the other one's M14, M14. Have we got some different springs in this one? We've got red springs up there. Oh, pink. It's definitely had some different coils put up it.
Is it?
Is it standard height? It's got standard springs in the front, but we've got something different. Maybe it's had some heavy duties put in the rear. It's got a tow bar on it, eh?
Tow bar.
So I wonder if someone's used it for towing and put something a bit stiffer in the rear of it. I think I'm going to get a tow bar for my 430 actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dump one of my other my tow cars. Just I'm going to lose 4-wheel drive.
Do you want this one?
I've got 25 cars. 26 this weekend.
No, tow bar, I mean.
Oh, a tow bar. No, it won't fit my car. Different.
Okay.
Bring it down, Jace.
It's a good plate, isn't it?
Lovely.
Yeah.
How long have you had that? You've only had a little while, haven't you? Partway through lockdown?
About 15 months.
Yeah. So not a long time. What's your main drive car out of your 14?
Everyday car is a Volkswagen Golf.
Yep.
And that's sitting at the moment. It hadn't given me an ounce of trouble.
It's a Golf. It's going to car.
Then the other day, I can't get the ignition key out of it.
Oh no.
So hopefully I'm getting a local auto electrician to come round and see if he can get it out.
Has the battery gone flat? That is 4 years old now though, isn't it?
Battery should be better than that, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I would hope so, but they don't. They don't last like they used to. Actually, a guy came in when I was tuning years ago, and he had 10 years out of his battery, and he had a battery charger, and you had to look after it and keep it all tended up, and fantastic. It was amazing. Oh, sub TPS has had a bit of a hiding. Jace, have you got the pins for the sub TPS, for the TPSs here? The ones with the little wings on them?
I've got 2 sitting in front of me right now.
Two's, I need 4, but we'll do a little...
If I turn my head around, this is, I can see some more over there.
Oh, good, Joe. Jason's got some pins. We'll do a little bit of a repair.
How do you know why the TVS is covered?
Yeah.
How do you know why?
I'm just checking that you've got some left. You know how many you use? How many do you use? Hundreds.
I would have asked you, I would have covered 8 more pins. It would have covered 8 more pins.
Yes, it would have been. Good. Well, I need some.
Oh, there's some there.
Good. Right. So we're just going to take this cover off. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to just slip this, these pipes go down, or these hoses go down to the idle up for the power steer. So I'm just going to flip them out of the way. And it's a little bit of a squeeze past the power steer pump. And then on the other side, same thing. These are the same four bolts. We're going to pop them off, take these covers off. We'll inspect the leads and replace the plugs. Why do I have light and dark writing on these? Why is it different? Now, I was told today,
Alright, right out.
some of them have a P on the top of them. They have a little decal on the top. That indicates possibly that it's the genuine original factory fitted spark plug. Now these ones I don't think are. I think they've been changed. You can see, I'm going to have to change cameras to show a in-depth of what a spark plug actually looks like when it's worn, but these kind of show that they're worn. We'll get onto the other camera and we'll have a bit of a proper look at spark plugs. It's really hard to find a good focus, but what you're actually looking at, one is colour. This one's actually burning okay, but if we look at in here, I can get a background, oh that's better. We actually look at how worn the back of that central electrode is, and how worn the earth electrode is, and it's very, very rounded off. Okay. There's noticeable rounding, and there's noticeable eroding of that central electrode on these. It looks like it could possibly do with a couple more oil changes. It's possibly got a little bit of oil going through it. But generally, they're evenly worn. There's no like big oil deposits, but there's just a little bit on there, which isn't unusual. But we've also got, which I thought was really interesting, was we've got dark colour and a lighter colour spark plug on the writing, which I haven't seen before.
Are they
in
the
this
right
sense.
plugs?
Yeah, so some of these actually take a smaller gap, but they take the 0.8. So they take a PK20R8. I'm actually going to fit a SK20R11, which I put in all of them. And new plugs, the difference is platinum to iridium. And I find no issues doing so. And I don't know why on some of them, when it's the same ignition system and same everything, but they did run a 0.8 gap on some of them. And they did it in the Sora SC400 range as well. But I run the genuine Denso. I don't buy cheap copies. I avoid any places where there might be a cheap copy, because they do get copy plugs. I'm going to actually sit down and go through these, get in with a magnifying glass and look at these a bit closer, because it's interesting. There's the dark writing and the light writing. Normally they've got the lighter writing. We'll go I'll get the proper ones.
So we're going iridium.
We're going iridium.
Is that higher quality than platinum?
Platinum's generally longer lasting. They generally consider platinum as being the longer lasting, and iridium a little bit more performance related, but they're much of a muchness in a standard situation like this. And most of the modern vehicles have headed towards the iridium plug over the platinum. This is the anti-seize I use on the oxygen sensors. So that's going into a steel exhaust manifold or a cast iron manifold. That should never be used on spark plugs. Okay, because copper reacts with the, going into an aluminium cylinder head because it reacts. So I've used some nickel anti-seize. I've just put a little tiny bit on the spark plugs. So ideally, the manufacturer would like us to use nothing on the spark plug, nothing at all. And I've been known to use just like a little light lubricant, like a CRC Inox WD-40. That's quite good. But the reason I'm putting something on there is a couple of the plugs didn't come out nicely. So that's going to act as a little bit of a lubricant as well as a protectant on those threads. But you don't, like guys put big goops on it, they get on the electrodes, you just got to put a little tiny bit on there. And as I said, in an ideal world, I wouldn't use anything, but there was a couple that they were unpleasant to unscrew.
Okay.
And that's just going to help keep those holes lubricated, keep those threads in good order, because I don't want to tear those threads out. Some cars, they're notorious for actually poking the spark plug threads into the cylinder, so then they carbon up. When you take them out, they just tear the threads out. UZs don't do that, fortunately, but you'll see a couple of these have got quite shiny on the tips of the on the ends, and that's where it's actually tearing part of it. It's damaging the thread, or blunting the thread, I should probably say. It's not actually, it's not tearing it to bits, but it's just taking the sharpness off those threads. So that's why I put just a little bit of ADCs on.
Yep.
And these, you notice these ones are all the same colour. All the writing's all the same colour.
Yeah.
Coming out of a genuine Denso box. And I use the SK20R11 in every UZ engine.
Okay.
I've pretty much, from the 1UZs right through to the 3UZs, I use those spark plugs, and I buy boxes of 100. Because it's only, box of 100 is only 12 vehicles, 12 and a half vehicles. Yeah. It's not that many. So we chew through them pretty quickly. So not out of a Toyota box, out of a Denso box, but the same product, because Denso is partly owned by Toyota.
Okay.
So Toyota and Denso, that's why you get lots of Toyotas running Denso parts, because of that ownership interchange. And then you'll get there's like a contract signed that you can't buy that product branded as Denso for so many years. And that's why I get genuine Nippon Denso starter motors, but not through the Toyota dealer, through the Nippon Denso aftermarket network. But it's exactly the same part as supplied to Toyota. Okay. And same as my alternators, exactly the same part as supplied to Toyota, but it doesn't have a Toyota part number on it, it's got a Denso number on it. Okay. And that's the difference. That's the only difference. Oh, and sometimes the Toyota stuff comes in a white box, actually, but sometimes they come in the proper printed Toyota yellowy box. But then I can get some of the aftermarket stuff either in a Denso box or just a plain white box, and for half the price. So, hey, that box costs a whole lot of money. You see, so you watch me. I've got quite a big ratchet here, but I'm not using the whole ratchet. So you bring them down and you feel it touch the seat. And now it's different for a new spark plug compared to a used spark plug as well. Because on a used spark plug, the seat's already crushed. So on a new one, you're trying to crush the seat. And if you over tighten them too much, these ones aren't too bad. So there's actually a ring of sealing material in there, and if you over tighten it, you damage it, and that's why you get a little bit of exhaust leakage through the plug too. Okay. So you get it on its seat, you feel the seat, that was the crushing of the seat right there. Okay, so I just felt it crushing the seat, the crush washer, and then just an ant's cock extra. There's probably a torque setting. There is a torque setting. I never use it. I feel it. And I've undone spark plugs that I think people have used to put the cylinder head on with it. Yeah. It's shocking. It's just amazing how tight some spark plugs are. Now this one, guys, with the leads, of course, there is a date stamped on the leads. This one's had a set of leads. I'm pretty sure we checked that last time. And we go with 2000 and I think it's a 15 or a 16.
Okay.
This car has been well maintained, hasn't it?
As far as I know, yeah.
And I'll tuck these all back into there. Oh, beautiful.
Okay. It certainly had in Mobile 1, you always put in.
That's nice and red too, beautiful. Yeah, these are absolutely gorgeous cars if they've been maintained.
Yeah.
If they haven't, then they're very expensive.
Okay.
Because they get so many things that need to be fixed. And of course, when they were sold, and this isn't actually correct, I'm sorry, this needs to clip. This is meant to be at the bottom. When they were sold new, of course, the owners, when they're buying these cars, and this would have been in New Zealand, 100 odd.
Oh, yes, so, yeah.
Do you think they cared about the cost of parts and maintenance and all that stuff? No. That's why they're also spec'd premium fuel, because you wouldn't sell a prestigious car and put 91 on it.
Yeah.
They're not that high in compression. They're tuned. The timing maps are hugely conservative. And whilst I'm a believer in premium, I put premium in everything.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
I've got guys that run these things and they've done 500,000 Ks on unleaded, and I'm like, but then I'm like, oh wait, okay, let's look at the tuning. The tuning's conservative, no issues.
Okay. But I should put 95 in this?
I always prefer premium fuel. Okay, it's for me it just burns better, but in fact, the world isn't going to end if it got some 91, and that's because which is our regular. But the scapegoats of the internet, or the scaremongers of the internet, just go crazy over that stuff, and they get so triggered. It's your car, put what you want on it, but I still prefer premium fuel. I'm going to do a video with my 430, and I'm going to put 91 on it, regular. I'm going to run it. We're going to go to the dyno, we're going to dyno it, then we're going to put the better fuel in it, and the better fuel in it, and see what it does. And then we're going to put a flash DCU in it. Sounds lovely. There's like no ticking in the lifters or anything. I can hear a little bit of injector, which is normal. That is really quiet, that injector. Really, really quiet.
That's good?
Absolutely lovely. I was going to check some codes and check some live data. Now this is an OBD1 car. You know it's 95, so I've plugged in up in there to DLC2, which is the semicircle connector. So my scanner basically just counts the number of flashes on the dash. There we go. And flashing constantly. No codes, no fault codes. Do you know?
The what, sorry?
The tints, are they a factory? Do you know if that's a factory?
What's the glass say?
No, I think that was additional.
That's... What do you want on there, Jace?
He's actually got some
Yep, we've got an AS number. AS2?
Yeah,
That's not a factory tint. They've done a beautiful job of it. It's very dark. A lot darker than I would have expected for a factory.
Yeah.
And like the seats, beautiful. You can see the driver's seat has been used, but the back seat, black leather's just gorgeous, isn't it? Look at that. It's got the proper Lexus floor mats. And everything actually works in here, doesn't it? Everything working like it should. It's a pity the radios were a little bit basic for the time.
Yeah,
That was probably a bit of a letdown for them. 180,000 Ks, 454.
yeah.
And I noticed the temp gauge came up nice and quick. The temp gauge does stay about the middle all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even on cold days.
Yeah.
Good, that's important. That is just lovely. Just lovely. Right, I think I'm going to call that done. I'll be really interested to see how your fuel economy goes.
Okay.
And I suspect you'll find it's just that ever so slightly smoother everywhere it goes.
Yeah.
With the with the new plugs, and of course, and those oxygen sensors. Yeah. They're a little bit primitive in their trimming on these, but more so the Gen 1s, the UCF10, but the UCF20s, when the oxygen sensors aren't functioning, they tend to go quite rich.
Okay.
And so a new set of oxygen sensors that Also, they cycle faster. So as they get older, they cycle slower. So they go between their 900 millivolts and their 100 millivolts, and that gets slower. So the computer doesn't adjust as fast, and that affects your fuel economy.
Yeah.
Putting some new ones in, they flick through much faster, much nicer.
Okay.
So I suspect that's going to be much better. I think we probably should go for a little bit of a test drive. Just go up on the main road, give it a little drive,
Okay.
and then I'll take my keys with me and I'll bring another car back, so you don't have to come down the driveway a second time. I've got a car to bring back anyway, so it's kind of cheating.
I don't mind going and bring you back.
We'll go for a drive. Hey, on the highway, not really a motorway, but I thought I'd better give it a test drive just to check everything's good. And I wanted to go for a drive. Sorry, mate. Oh, that's beautiful and smooth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that a lovely car to drive? So my 430's a little bit beaten up, you know, 200,000 Ks, 250,000 Ks.
Alright.
And it's had a little bit of a life. Someone cut exhaust off before I got it. But it still drives incredibly well.
Yeah.
But this one's really tight in the suspension.
Yes.
I do feel
Brakes are good.
brakes are lovely. Very similar to my 430. 430's probably got slightly bigger brakes,
Okay.
but very tight in as far as the suspension and suspension feel. I would suspect it has got stiffer springs in the back
Could do. Yeah.
for that towing.
For the sign, yeah.
And like the difference between a 4 litre and the 4.3 is noticeable, but this is no slug.
Oh, that's good to hear. And they're a heavy car too, aren't
Yep, and that trans shift is nice too.
they? Yeah.
That really makes a big difference. They changed the logic between the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s, the ECU and the kickdown logic for the trans, and they changed the sequential injection, which all things that make it just feel so much nicer on the road. That's lovely. That's an absolutely gorgeous car. Stay off the line, eh? The problem I have too is I drive so many cars with this amount of power. This is the normal sort of power for me, so I get very used to this amount of power from a car, and that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah.
I jump in little 4 cylinders, it's like, oh dear.
And so this has got the power you would expect?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. It feels like a 400.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it's lacking in any way at all.
Okay.
And that engine's just silky smooth.
Yeah.
It's real sweetheart.
It is, isn't it? The only noise you get is tyre noise.
Yep. Yeah, I can hear a little bit of wind and a little bit of tyres.
Yeah.
And possibly some better tyres could help that. But there's nothing wrong with these tyres.
Okay.
This is one of my usual test drive tracks.
Okay.
We pick under all through here. So behind us there's a walking track that comes from the back of the farm up to Woods Mill, and we can actually drop, there's an old pig hunting track through there. And then he goes, there's a waterfall, lovely walk down to a waterfall in there. This side eventually goes, there's a big gully in here.
Okay.
And there's actually a vagrant who lives just up above us, not far up there. He comes and does a bit of scrap metal every now and again. Interesting character.
Yeah.
I don't.
Lives in there on his own.
He's got a little forry in the bush.
Yeah.
He gave me a flash drive with some footage of his little forry that he's built in the bush.
Okay.
And he has a push bike. I have to see him with a push bike going past.
Yeah.
The great thing about this particular straight here is, as you cruise along, there's a big downhill, so it allows me to check thermostat operation and watch if the thermostat's cooling off.
Right.
Because that's also a very big part of keeping your fuel economy, is that your thermostat is healthy. But you know, it's had the leads done, it's now had some plugs done. That'll be its second plug change.
Yeah.
And those oxygen sensors, would have been the originals, so they've been changed.
Yeah. Yep.
No, very happy.
Oh, that means I'm very happy.
Yep. I think you should be proud of this car. This is like, there's not many examples like this left over here.
Yeah.
We don't see them quite as often. There's actually one on the market at the moment that's again done very low Ks, but because it hasn't been used, it's got all the same issues of a very, very used car. Because it's been sitting in a shed, not being used. So this one, while it's got 180 Ks on it, it's over that time it's had good maintenance.
Yeah.
And I bet you the one it's under 50,000 Ks. It probably hasn't had enough oil changes either.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been used. The car I bought, that Celsior I bought from Wellington, it's sat in a car yard for 10 years. It's got 111,000 Ks on it, and it's got perished tyres.
Yeah.
All 4 tyres are actually perished on the sidewalls.
Because it's just sitting around.
Just from sitting.
How'd you find that?
It came to me because it wasn't running properly.
Okay. Oh, is that the one? Yeah.
That's the one that, unfortunately, it needs someone with my skill set to fix it, or someone with a big bank account.
Yeah.
Because it needs a massive repair.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't even back off the gas there. I probably could have gone through there at another 20 Ks an hour, not a problem.
Yeah. No, they're very smooth, aren't they? For a car of that age.
Yep. And there's no clunks at all in the suspension. It's nice and firm. You dip into a corner, it doesn't drop, it doesn't wallow. It just glides around the corners.
Yeah.
Exhaust, zero noise. Right, no, I'm happy. So you see, I live just across the road from the workshop.
Do you live here?
In rural terms.
Okay.
We talk different in rural terms, eh? Just across the road.
Just across the road.
Yeah, it's 3 kilometres away, but it's just across the road. Well, we needed another house.
Yeah.
So instead of putting a house onto the farm, I bought a little lifestyle block across the road.
Okay.
So I've got 12 acres across here.
Okay.
So I've got my pigs, and I've got some sheep, and I've got some cows.
Yeah.
What do you think Jason eats? My sheep,
Pigs.
my
sheep.
cat, yeah, and my eggs. I give him eggs.
Oh yeah.
Got to feed the boy.
And he does looms.
He does a lot of looms, and he pulls spanners. He's become a clone of me. He actually starts to talk like me. He doesn't like to think it, but he does actually talk a lot like me now, and uses expressions like I do. But at the moment, he is just doing wiring looms.
Yeah.
For the next couple of weeks, and then he's got to pull some spanners, and he was doing engine mounts last week.
Yeah.
So he's very universal in his skill set.
Gee, look at your mulch.
Oh yeah, I bought some mulch the other day.
Hey.
There you go. Yeah, I bought
Is
the
that
2
the
box.
Celsius, the bright blue one?
Yeah, the blue Celsius.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it gorgeous colour?
Yeah.
It's a lovely car.
Yeah.
And then my beaten up one's behind it.
Yeah.
And then in between there's a grey one. And then there's the old Crown Majesta I just bought. And then there's a boat with a Lexus in it that's turbocharged.
Oh, no, really?
It's got the same engine as this, an early one,
Yeah.
but turbocharged.
Oh.
Yeah. Right, John, I'm done. I'm happy.
Well, that's been a very good exercise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
I enjoyed working on it. I enjoy working on nice cars.
yeah, well,
And you know, you see, I wasn't setting any speed records, but I've just been very thorough.
yeah.
And good parts, putting proper parts into it for a little garage in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
Proper
fantastic.
stuff, and do the proper job. You know, and it's
I
nice.
love it.
Very good.
Yeah.
I just very good. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Take care. Drive safe.
So you're going back now?
Yeah, I'm going to take my Majesta back.
Okay.